Oh
love
my
it.
gosh, it is so good to see your face.
Oh, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually having a really productive week.
Good. That's so
Yeah, I know. It's a miracle. It's a
always
Christmas miracle.
also in that Christmas spirit.
I mean, so
Wow.
this will be one of the earlier podcasts on the relaunch season, and I just relaunched it in accordance. This is actually what came through for me in that breathwork session we did at the retreat. This is how Taylor and I met.
Yeah.
Taylor and I met, was it 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks now. Yeah.
3 weeks ago now, which seems like it was last year. 3 weeks ago, we met in Austin at a retreat called the Expanders Retreat, which was through Lindsay Schwartz's Powerhouse Women. And we'll get into that. But this was the Christmas miracle. The Christmas miracle was actually doing a breathwork session and getting exactly what I asked for, which was clarity on one thing. And the one thing I asked for clarity on was, do I do I continue on with the podcast? And if I do, what is it going to be about? And so I relaunched it under the name of my book, Breaking Good, which is about, of course, creative living, which is about living a life of your own creation.
Yeah.
And then all the resistance that comes with birthing that unlived life, that life of creation.
Yeah.
So to have you on here in the earlier episodes is just such a beautiful thing because I wouldn't have had that breakthrough had I not been introduced and been in that energy of um, being willing to let some things go, which is where I met you and you came into the picture. So what I want to do is I'm not going to tell you yet about what I was experiencing in your session.
Okay.
Could you just tell us, kind of like you did at the retreat, who are you? What do you do? And then I have lots of questions.
I love it. I'm so glad we connected as well in the retreat. I feel like we bonded instantly. So thank you for having me on here. So, yeah, I'm Taylor Wray. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and the work that I do is I help people become more themselves through embodiment, through somatic healing. So, I'm a somatic facilitator, embodiment guide, yoga teacher trainer.
Mhm.
And I think about it this way too is like, I simply put, help people be themselves in the challenges of life,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
show up fully as themselves because life is really hard
Hmm.
and to peel all the layers that are clouding them from who they really are through all these
Hmm.
different practices and tools.
Yeah. So this is why I connected with you because you showed up as yourself. You showed up as you. You did not show up as the person who is going to be doing a session and is putting on the accoutrements and the garb
Yeah.
of whatever that looks like. You really, truly, I mean, I'm being dead, totally serious. There's an energy that is palpable and so beautiful when you see someone that is just very much at peace with themselves and present to be free in that moment with some pressure. Let's
Yeah.
be honest, it's
Yeah.
a retreat with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people. There are some big names in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of high-powered women in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different energies in there. Um, what was your experience? So I'm reflecting what I saw and what I experienced. What was your experience in
Yeah.
that?
Well, thank you for sharing that and expressing that. And it's funny to hear that because as much as I felt like I showed up fully,
Hmm.
which I did before I actually led the session, which the session for anyone listening was a yoga and somatic movement practice. So that was yoga
With
in,
some dance elements too.
yeah. So yoga,
Yes.
like very creative movement with yoga. And then I shifted into empowering breathwork practices. Then some ecstatic dance, which is really just somatic healing through dance.
Okay.
and stretching people outside of their comfort zones through that,
Hmm.
back down into some grounding movement and meditation. And I didn't fully plan my session ahead. I had a general idea, and I knew that I needed to be in the room with everyone on the first day
Yeah.
to fully know how to hold the space and how to guide it and what to theme it on and set the intention on. And I remember that night knowing what I needed to do, which I did end up leading, but getting in my head for a little bit like, wow, is it gonna be right for everyone? Are they gonna actually enter the space and be vulnerable? All these
Yeah.
thoughts of I'm going to really stretch people outside of
Hmm.
what they might know through movements.
Yeah.
And I had to just come back to trusting myself fully that like
Mm.
I know this is what's needed. And
Yeah.
even if someone received it in a way of like, wow, that was so awkward or uncomfortable, that's
Right.
also their medicine.
It is the medicine.
Yeah. So
It
I
is.
had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I had some nerves ahead of time, and then they
Okay.
completely dissipated once I met everyone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we're all just humans trying to be our best and trying to
Yeah.
heal. And
Mhm.
I have tools to offer. So I was able to surrender and let go of any nerves or doubt or fear and just show up
Mm.
fully. It was like, here it is, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And there was a moment too, I want to sort of talk about it. When you described ecstatic dance, am I saying it correctly? The word ecstatic? Okay.
Ecstatic dance.
Yeah. So my way of interpreting it is simple movements done in a way that is led by body and emotion as opposed to head or knowledge.
Yeah.
That was my experience of it. I don't know if that tracks at all.
Yeah, that's a great interpretation. And
Okay.
this is why I personally love practicing ecstatic dance, but also guiding it,
Mm-hmm.
is it helps us move from our heads down into our bodies. It helps
Yeah.
move us from all of these thoughts of, am I doing this right? Is there a right way, a wrong way? Should I move like this? Should I move like that? And it's
Mm-hmm.
giving people the opportunity to find freedom in their own
Right.
movement,
Right.
and which is really just a remembrance of who we really are, because we're born in freedom in our bodies as
Absolutely.
babies, as kids. We don't have
Yes.
constraints on us yet. And then
Yeah.
society puts those constraints, we believe the constraints,
Mm-hmm.
and we start to
Mm-hmm.
close off and get a lot smaller.
Yep.
So it's just one of the forms that helps us to liberate and
Mm.
self-express and remember, oh, like here I am. This is who I am
Right.
actually under all of these fears and doubts.
Yeah. What was perfect about it, it was on day one, right? Am I,
It was the
was it
morning
day
of
two?
day two.
It was the
Yeah.
morning of day two. Okay. I knew it was early on. What was perfect about that is because I think most women will come into an environment like that with a certain degree, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how far along you are in your self-regulation practice, no matter how much freedom work you've done, we go into an environment like that still with several layers of self-consciousness,
Yeah.
um, that we're wearing, like a couple extra pieces of luggage or layers of clothing. And I certainly do. In fact, it's not just self-consciousness. There's the self-consciousness, but also the consciousness of the room.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of multifaceted consciousness going on. And to me, it's like having about 100 windows open. And that's why when we kind of had a reflection session about it after the fact, I was kind of saying, kind of tongue in cheek and in a funny way, that I don't really love yoga, because
Yeah.
to me, means you're going to tell me I'm going to be in my brain for 45 minutes,
Yeah.
with all these open. So again, I'm just telling you what my experience of that was and why I thought it was just so perfect,
This is Beth
especially for a
Stanfield,
group
and
of
this
women
is
who
the
most of us
Breaking
did not know
Good
each other. Most of
podcast.
us have entirely different types of businesses and backgrounds. And also we kind of have a central concept of entrepreneurship and leveling up, as much as that terminology is overused. Getting to maybe a different place, a different idea. So there's this element sort of ambition, I think, kind of buzzing in the room, right? I
Yeah.
think. So you got all that. So then you go into this practice of this experience, which none of us knew what was coming. And I certainly had never heard of ecstatic dance.
Mhm.
And it started with just slow stretching and you guiding us verbally through that process to get in the body, get out of the head, get into the body.
Yeah.
And then as we move through the somatic process, then it was about like pushing energy out.
Mhm.
That's really where things got really cool because I physically felt that consciousness that I'm always holding on to, that those layers, that self-correction, now let me, I'm not going to lie and say it didn't try to come back on, right? But to be able to physically feel that energy being released was really powerful, really powerful. And I would love to know, A, how did you do that? Two, how is it possible to do that in a non-live setting? I think it has to be live, but I am super curious what you think.
Live is in person together.
Correct.
And you guiding someone.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So, well, yeah, thank you for sharing your experience with that. I have been creating and developing organically, unfolding this method, awakening soul with my brand. And so I've been allowing it to unfold over the last 2-3 years or so. And I think it's just every time I lead movement or ecstatic dance, I learn more and more about how to help pull people out of their heads and into their bodies, and how to help guide them deeply to feeling themselves
Yeah.
and to others in that space. So the movements that I believe you're specifically referring to is the really fast movements with the breath, and you were making loud sounds and using our voice.
Yes.
So I call those awakening soul activations.
Okay. I called it beast mode. That's
I
what it
love that.
was like for me.
Yes, totally. Like, yeah, beast mode. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and the awakening soul activation is really what it sounds like. You are awakening parts within yourself that have been ignored, suppressed, repressed, forgotten about, turned off, dimmed. And so it's allowing us to channel and pull those parts up, back, out, and through, because they've always been there. And so using the breath, using our voice, and using the energy of community also helps to create that energetic experience, that somatic experience. And it's extremely empowering. Every single time I always have chills leading it and guiding it and seeing the response from everyone that's fully showing up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the most powerful part of that session for me. And it took the lead up to get there.
Exactly.
You know? Like you don't just jump into beast mode.
No.
But that was definitely the most powerful part, especially the vocal part of it, that expression. And that's probably the part that's more uncomfortable for a lot of people too.
Exactly. And that's what I was just going to say, is how often do we not use our voice? And how often do we get told not to use our voice, or we forgot how to?
Yeah.
Or it goes all the way back to being kids.
Wow.
So it's all of the elements pieced together, and that helps to really create that. And I think the vocal activation is also one of the like most extreme parts to help pull that up and out.
Yeah.
Also, to answer the question of, do I feel that has to be like one-on-one together in person or in a community space? I think that there's an energy that you can't replicate.
Yeah.
If it's not in person, but I practice them on my own, even at home, you know? So there's different experiences with the awakening soul activations. I think that being in a collective space, like we were on this retreat,
Hmm.
We just met each other like 2 days prior. We're all here to grow and expand. Like there's something really magical about that,
Yeah,
to share that together as well.
it is totally.
Yeah.
And that's what brings the element of discomfort.
Yeah.
Uh, to move in a way that is free and not dictated by the mind. And
Mhm.
even coming from a background as a dance fitness instructor,
Yeah.
that's a very cerebral activity
Yeah.
because you not only are you thinking about the choreo, but you're thinking about how you move and it is, believe me, extremely freeing, especially to be in class. But as an instructor, it's a different cognitive process. And as a result of that, just a different experience of freedom.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that was that being in that space, being in that community where there's a lot of different, just a lot of different energetic colors. It's probably
Mhm.
the best way I can
Yeah.
describe it. Just a lot
Yeah.
of personalities and colors coming out. And in that part where we're just moving together,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
atoms in a, in a
Yeah.
space, it was just really beautiful. And my
Mhm.
experience of it was very personal.
Okay.
That's in the sense that, and this is why I feel like it's somewhat miraculous in that I truly did not feel self-conscious in that.
Yeah.
In that movement, in that space, when we were kind of coming back together as a group, I truly didn't. It
Yeah.
truly was like, to me, a celebration of us all just being there and being present and sharing and letting those colors mix in
Yeah.
real time, like art.
Yes.
To
Oh, I
see
love
that
that.
art of movement and to
Yeah.
feel it, it was really cool. I did not want it to end.
That's
I did
incredible.
not
I
love
lead
it.
journeys like that last 2.5 hours. So I get it. We could
Yeah,
keep going.
I know.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think too, it unites us, an experience like that. Like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different personalities, energies, even though we're all striving for the same vision for ourselves in our own unique ways.
Yeah.
I think at least every person at some point expressed on the first, second, or third day, I had fear before coming here. Like, do I belong here? Do I
Oh
fit in
yeah, for
here?
sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
no matter where we're at in our journey of building our business and being entrepreneurs, like we all still have those thoughts
Yeah, we
of,
do.
do I belong?
Yeah.
Do I belong? Do I
Oh
fit
my
here?
gosh.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, you think, by your 30s, you'll feel like you belong. By your 40s, you feel like, and at this point, I think we have to recognize that this is a universal longing and
Mhm.
a universal grief.
Yeah.
That no matter what happens, we're still wondering, do we belong? And that it's so, no matter who you look at as being, like Lindsay, for example, as being like having accomplished so many things, you would think that she would never suffer from the grief or the question of belonging, but
Yeah.
of course she does.
Yeah. We
Of
all still
course she
do at
does.
every point in our journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. I felt that throughout the weekend, that question of, do I belong? And at the end of the day, the ultimate question I'm really asking is, do I belong to myself? Because if I belong here, I belong everywhere.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And that right there is embodiment.
Yeah.
That actually
Yeah.
is embodiment. It's belonging to yourself. It's
I,
living in alignment with your true self and being safe, feeling safe in who you are and in your body,
mm-hmm.
to be this whole embodied person that can show up
Yeah.
in the world and be present and be grounded and be liberated and express yourself fully. That's it.
I think one of the things that I love about your practice and what you did at the event is that discomfort of just yelling out sounds and words, the discomfort of moving your body in a way that is not choreographed, not orchestrated, is awkward. If you had a camera on yourself or a mirror on yourself, you probably would have adjusted your movement
Yep.
and you would have been in an entirely different headspace as a result of that. But
Yeah.
just being in that space, I think, became the great equalizer.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if you came from what I perceive as being up here,
Hmm.
and now I feel like I've got to like prove myself to you. It doesn't matter if someone else came over here. We're all just flailing about.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Right?
Like literally, we're all figuring it out as we go.
We are all figuring it out. We're all wondering if we belong. We're
Yeah.
all wondering and feeling like we don't and trying to figure out how we can make ourselves belong. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's such a breath of fresh air to be around people that will honestly admit, I have the same question.
Yeah.
I have the same concern.
Yeah.
I wonder the same things at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. The vulnerability is so important in
Yeah.
connection. And I think
Yeah.
that that's where so much disembodiment
Mm.
lies is, I mean, that's just disconnection from self. And
Yeah.
we're disconnected from ourselves. We are disconnected from the world and from others and being able to like genuinely connect.
Right. That's
Hmm.
what we're craving right now, I think, more than anything.
Hmm.
At least for me, it's having lived and worked in a environment that was so deeply disembodied, it wasn't even on the charts.
Yeah.
Like I know we've talked about this too. Both
Yeah.
of us have a background that includes addiction, and we're both sober,
Yep.
and that adds a whole different layer of what it means to develop an embodiment practice because
Yeah.
there's really nothing more, I mean, few things that are as disconnecting and disembodied than addiction.
Yeah.
And it's both the on-ramp to disembodiment, the cage that keeps you there, and then it becomes the only source for survival
Hmm.
as a
Hmm.
result of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think especially when we get sober, we're to some capacity forced into learning about, well, what does embodiment mean? Even if we don't know that term, we have
Right.
no understanding of the actual word itself, embodiment.
Right.
But embodiment is really simply put, it's healing all of the patterns and traumas and expanding self awareness to see ourselves and to be with the discomfort that we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly the path in getting sober.
Yeah.
Like we have to go through that to
Yeah.
actually live a long-term sober life
Mm-hmm.
is to go into all of those wounds and all of those spaces and keep peeling them away and peeling them away,
Yeah.
which in the end, that's the same experience as
Mm-hmm.
somatic healing and embodiment.
Is that what led you into this practice that you have now made a life and a business and a purpose?
Yeah, that's a
Tell me
great
about
question.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so
So,
I I'm so curious because for a lot of years, I'm just going to tell you, for a lot of years, I got sober and then I just kind of stayed in sort of like a sober purgatory.
yeah.
Like I wasn't doing the work.
Yep.
I didn't even
Yep.
know what the work was.
Totally. Yeah.
So tell me how
Yeah.
you got from there to here. And if you need to talk about some of the history of it, please do,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot of
the
people don't
history is
know.
a huge part of it. It's so
Mhm.
intertwined for me. I started using and abusing drugs at 13 and I got sober at 21. So very, very young, all throughout my teens. But I found yoga at 15 in the midst of it all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to my first yoga class at 15 and I knew at the time that the addiction, the partying was not good. I was
Hmm.
very aware of it. I wasn't like disconnected from how unhealthy it was,
Right.
but I was choosing it. Like I knew that okay, well, I'm choosing this, and this is really toxic and really unhealthy. So I'd have these phases where I wanted to come out of it and I wanted to get healthy. And I remember going to my first yoga class, and it was incredible. And I didn't understand what was happening on an energetic level.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in the last posture, which is like the resting Shavasana meditation, I started to get teary, and I had this thought of, this is the first time I feel okay
Mm.
without getting high.
Wow.
So I knew there
Wow.
was something there, and
Yeah.
I didn't get it yet. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I just wanted to keep going back.
Yeah.
Community
Okay.
was really fun. It was just a very healthy environment, and I kept showing up. And so I had years of phases where I would binge and party and not really show up to yoga. And then I would have months of trying to stop partying, and maybe like a 3 month span where I was only going to yoga and I was
Yeah.
not partying and not drinking or using any drugs. And I kept cycling in that for years. And I had a couple periods where I tried getting sober on my own. And one of them was when I moved to Hawaii at about 19. And I did a lot better there. It wasn't great, but I was off of a lot of hard drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a little bit worse from being prescribed a pain pill from a dentist. I had my wisdom teeth removed, and I had like an infection after, and it was horrible. So I actually took the pain pills, and it spiraled me like right back into one of
Wow.
my deepest addictions,
Wow.
to the point where I was ready to end my life
Mm.
because I couldn't believe I was back. And I called my mom. She's incredible. And I just told her, I don't want to live. I've been back on Percocet for like 4 months.
Mm.
I'm not okay. I think I was 20 at that time.
Yeah.
She said, okay, it's time to come home.
Yeah.
So I got back within 5 days, lived with my mom, and it was day one of my 10 months completely sober, all on my own. Yoga, meditation, no friends from my past knew I was back.
Right.
I just dove into all of these mindfulness practices. I
Mm.
was eating healthy, I was working out, I was doing everything possible. And that's when I knew I want to go through yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I went to New York at 2021
Mm-hmm.
for my first yoga teacher training program. And at that time, I had a teaching job set up to come back to at a studio. They were like, great, you're going to go learn how to become a teacher. When you get back, start teaching here. So that terrified me because in the past, my biggest fear was actually public speaking, like paralyzing,
Wow.
paralyzing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I actually had so much anxiety knowing I was going to come back and start teaching. And it was a month-long program. The last day of the training, the entire group, we graduate, everyone goes out to celebrate, and I relapsed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
by the time the sober
Yeah.
got to me,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was ordering drinks, and I had this whole conversation in my head in about 2 minutes of why it was okay for me to get a drink now.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like, the thoughts were, you've been doing so good, you're on your path, you've got this. Alcohol wasn't really your problem. It's not
Right.
drugs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
order a drink. And then literally within 2 hours, I'm with like the party people of the group at
It's
five
on.
different bars in New York City on cocaine
Right.
6 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
like literally.
Wow.
Yeah. So it
Dang.
spiraled really fast.
Yeah.
And
That was fast.
I was in a 4 month binge without 4 month relapse without anyone knowing.
Wow.
Here I am, come back home to start teaching yoga in a relapse.
Yeah.
And it was the deepest shame
Wow.
I have ever felt.
Oof. Okay.
And
Wow.
it was the worst
Wow.
experience. So I actually taught yoga for like a month, and then I quit because I
Mhm.
couldn't handle the shame and the guilt and
Right.
the anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I quit thinking,
And
I,
probably the tension, just
yeah.
the tension of showing up in a certain way that is so
Mm,
disconnected from where your soul
yes.
actually is.
Yes. It was horrible feeling.
Mm,
It was way too rough. I didn't have the
yeah,
tools at the time to let myself feel that.
right.
So I quit
Yeah.
and I got worse. Um, then my mom luckily caught me.
Mm,
And when she caught
mm,
me, it was deep, deep, deep rock bottom.
yeah.
And she set some serious boundaries.
Hmm.
And I just said, yeah, like I need help. She was like, you either get out of my house. I was 21,
Yeah.
or let's send you to rehab.
Mhm.
So I went to rehab within a week. I was in Utah and it
Wow.
was the best thing I've ever done for myself.
Hmm.
So I went to inpatient for 30 days and that's where the work started. And I really started
Okay.
to go deep into myself and lived in sober living. Like I had no idea how to live sober. I was a
Right.
young adult. I was on drugs since I was
Yeah.
13. I had no
Right.
clue.
Yeah.
I also, you know,
Probably everything felt foreign. Like
yeah,
this is the thing, like when you're in that world and in that kind of social setting, it's, first of all, it feels like it's the whole world, right?
yes,
It feels like the whole world is high
absolutely.
and I'm the only
All
one.
year round. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it feels like there's two groups of people who are hot, not high, but also weird. And like, I
You don't
reality,
connect. Yeah,
right. And then, and which isn't true, but it's
yeah.
just how it feels.
The thought. Yeah,
And then it's like the rest of the world that is untouchable to me.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
it was wild. So I had to relearn how to live,
Yeah.
and I lived in sober living for a year, and then I came back to Phoenix. And at that time, I had fully let go of this idea that I was a yoga teacher. I
Okay.
thought I failed. I tried, I failed. That's not,
Mm.
I
Okay.
didn't make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I went two and a half, maybe up to 3 years, not teaching, not doing anything with it,
Hmm.
working random jobs, hating it, feeling like this is so passionless. This is not my
Yeah.
purpose.
Hmm.
And I had someone actually say, like, oh, yeah, didn't you go through yoga teacher training? I'm opening up a gym. Can you start teaching here? And I was like, what? No, I'm not a teacher. And they were like, I thought you love yoga. I was like, I do, but I don't teach. I was like, full on, like, nope.
Right.
And I had so much like trauma
Right.
from that experience of
Yeah.
starting with
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So it just kept getting louder and
And
louder
it's
and louder.
like, do you really want to deal with the shame?
Totally. I had to,
Right.
that's what happened. It just kept getting louder and louder and tapping me of like,
Hmm.
this is your dream. You
Yeah.
have to go through this. Like, you have
Yeah.
to move through it. So I told them yes. And I went
Hmm.
and took a second 200-hour yoga teacher training. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to do this again. And I did. And then that gave me the confidence to just jump in. And I did. And
Wow.
I jumped straight into all of the fears and doubts and I started thriving. Within a year, I was teaching full time and it
Hmm.
was amazing, you know? So it was in
Yeah.
that whole journey, it was yoga, it was mindfulness, meditation, somatic healing
Hmm.
that helped me recover from so much trauma and addiction and using unhealthy patterns to live with. So that's been my life since is that's for me and there's no way that I can't not share this with others because as I started teaching more and more I was just like wow everyone suffers. I
Yeah.
thought it was just me. Like we're all living with this.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Right.
anxiety and depression and they're using some type of distraction to not feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
right.
So
Oh,
it took me here, and this has been 12 or so years now.
okay. I was just going to ask you how long you've
14
really been
years.
in the,
Yeah. January coming up will be 14 years sober.
yeah.
And I've been teaching 12 years and about 10 years full time now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about like the trauma connection, and obviously we will not be able to unpack this
Yeah. There's a
conversation.
lot with that.
We may may have to do a part two, but One of the things and this, as I wrote my book, Breaking Good, things that never made sense started to come together,
Mm,
like about some of the religious trauma that I
mm,
experienced it, and I never called it trauma. Like that word is so heavy, and I tend to sort of, I don't want to be hyperbolic either, and I want to be accurate about how I describe things. So to describe something as religious trauma seems odd, but at the same time, I think it actually is because when I studied trauma reactions and how our bodies respond to trauma, which is to disconnect
yeah.
from who we are, disconnect from our spirit soul, from our heart. I actually think there is some kind of a root to it. One of the
Mm,
things I question though is did my tendency toward addiction, which was on my side, and I know we've talked about this, but on my side, it was a different brand. It was a different presentation, but mine was more the slow burn type
yeah.
of addiction that was just like very quiet and constant and just slowly became a bonfire.
Mm.
But it was still very regulated.
Yeah,
It
you
was
were
like,
functioning.
yes, high functioning,
Yeah.
like a engine, right?
Yeah.
Is an engine is a controlled burn. It's what kept the
Mhm.
car going. But my question is like, did the trauma cause the addiction? Did the addiction cause the trauma? I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I do know that when you live in a state of disembodied, extreme disembodied addiction, that in and of itself is
Yeah.
traumatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my thoughts, and everyone does have a different experience with trauma, but any trauma, simply put, and I think that what you said is like this word feels so heavy. So it's actually I'm on like this mission to like normalize the word trauma, right? It's just
Yeah.
part
Okay.
of our human experience. It's not a bad thing. It's
Hmm.
something that we should talk more and more about, which I feel like we all are, which is great.
Yeah.
Trauma is just the response we have to an event or an experience.
Mm.
That's it.
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
certain response that happens within us
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
like you said, disconnects us. So it might create something in our nervous system or
Right.
creates and rewires new habits and patterns,
Mhm.
or new fears start to come through because of that
Right.
experience. So
Hmm.
it creates pain because we haven't let ourselves fully heal the cycle of what needed to because we don't
Right.
want to feel it or we don't know how
Mm.
to feel it.
Right.
We don't
Yeah.
have the tools or the
Right.
support, or maybe the place wasn't actually safe for you to feel it.
Yeah.
So
Or
there's
maybe
some
you
things.
tried to work through it or feel it, and you were told either be
Not to.
quiet
Mhm.
or this is the answer. And the answer was
Totally.
very unfulfilling and it
Yeah,
caused cognitive dissonance.
absolutely. How many times do we as kids cry and then a parent stop
Yeah.
crying, right?
Yeah.
Like that right there is
Right.
shutting down our natural response to actually heal
Yeah.
this trauma that we just experienced. So there is
Yeah.
different types of trauma. There's some that, um, in my eyes, trauma is trauma is trauma because it just is how it affects the person. But of
Yeah.
course, there are things that, if we look at it, might seem more intense to go through than some other experiences.
Yeah.
But they all are very, very different to each person because it
Yeah.
also depends on how our childhood was.
Yeah.
So if we have a certain childhood with trauma within it, and then as an adult, we have this sudden experience, we might react very, very different than the person next to us in the same experience who maybe didn't have as traumatic of a childhood.
Right.
So it's layered within our somatic selves.
Mm.
So my
Hmm.
belief is that those moving through addiction is the trauma sets us into addiction
Yeah. Yeah.
because we
Hmm.
don't know how to feel. We don't know what to do with these overwhelming feelings of discomfort. That's really it.
Right. Yeah.
It's overwhelming feelings of discomfort. So we can
It
think of
is.
addiction as distraction.
Yep. Addiction as distraction, then addiction as medication, then addiction as a way to just not feel anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's where it's when we get sober, now we have to start going backwards to all
Right.
these traumatic
Yeah.
moments
Yeah.
that shaped us
Hmm.
somehow to then peel them and heal them so we can come back to us.
Mm. So many questions and we don't have enough time. So I have realized in the course of writing the book, and it's interesting because we just talked about this a little bit, that one of my the one of the key origin stories of my trauma is in the belief that we're not allowed to belong,
Mm,
that belonging is not possible.
mm,
And and it's not even right to want to belong. Like, oh, it makes me even teary to think about it.
mm.
And then to just go through life going, okay, this is my lot in life. We're going to be separate forever.
Wow.
We'll be
Yeah.
separate forever. And nothing traumatic happened, but the religious system that I grew up in was very insulated and had a very strong fear of going the wrong way, doing the wrong thing. Just so there was a lot of just fear of the outsider and secular culture and all the baddies in
Yeah.
the world. And so the safety was being good.
Mm,
Safety was being good.
got it.
And so it's like at the end of the day, I never wanted to be bad. I just wanted to belong.
Yeah. You want and to be you,
Yes. Yes. I didn't,
to be
and it
you
wasn't
and to belong with that. Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I spent so much of my life just basically letting or believing, not letting, but believing that the totality of my life was to be good and to
Hmm.
try to find, at least if I can't belong, at least I can find validation,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. If I'm good
So
enough at all the
exactly.
things, then I belong to some degree.
I belong to some degree, but do
Yeah.
you ever really belong to yourself?
Right. Because how much did you self abandon to be good, to fit everyone else's
99%,
good? Yeah.
probably 100%. It was probably
Yeah.
100% self-abandonment.
Yeah. To fit everyone else's idea of what good meant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that is growing up with that is trauma. So it's like hearing this, like, I didn't go through this big, maybe it wasn't this like shocking traumatic event,
right.
but it was daily for how many years?
Yes. Yeah.
And
And it
that
was
is,
very
yeah,
foundational.
yeah,
It
exactly. That's
wasn't
part of
like
your development.
this is what we believe. It was like this is the world.
Yeah.
This is the universe. So to adulthood was paradigm shift upon paradigm shift. But even in the midst of all those paradigm shifts, there's still that seed, that nugget of wondering, is it even right to have a self? Is it even right to have wants? Is it even right and allowable to want to be in relationship with people and show up as yourself?
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
it seems very at odds with a lot of cultural messages that we grew up in and with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. So how do you feel with that one today?
I will be working through it. I
Yeah.
will be working through it continually, which is why when you said at the beginning that your work is, I may not say this exactly the way you said it, but helping people that see themselves
Mhm.
and who they really are, to me that
Yeah.
resonates. And that is obviously why you did not say that. That never came out of your mouth at the retreat, but that is obviously why I'm drawn to you
Mm,
because that is the work.
mm. Wow, that's beautiful.
How do you I mean, I'm asking this like this is a legitimate question.
Yeah.
How do you actually walk in this world and manage to do that when all the messages are screaming at all times show up this way,
Mm.
do this way. And maybe I'm just highly susceptible to it, but I feel like so much of what I hear in social media with women, people starting businesses, are all these strategies and techniques for showing up a certain way.
Yeah.
Like what does you being you, how do you actually do that?
Uh, Yeah, that's a big question, right? So
Mhm.
I think personally, for me, if I speak about my own experience in that,
Yeah.
I feel like I've really experienced to the depths of suffering and darkness multiple times in my life that when I remember when I'm in like a good state and a good place, which comes in and out and still
Yeah.
to this day, it's not as heavy as when I was in addiction and all of that, but I remember how many times I've actually not wanted to live in my
Yeah.
past.
Hmm.
So when I come from that place,
Mm.
truthfully,
Yeah.
all I can think about is showing up exactly how I want to.
Mm.
And like remembering that like life actually is short and
Right.
it's actually not guaranteed. We
Yes.
don't know when our time ends, and there's no other choice for me
I love
when
that.
I like genuinely come back to that.
Yeah.
And of course, I get lost in things as well. I get lost in, am I doing this right? Is this the right strategy? Should I
Hmm.
try this way? Like, I for sure get lost in that.
Yeah.
And I might stay lost for a little bit. And then there's always this
Mm.
homecoming of like, oh yeah, just go within and trust because your intuition actually knows.
Yeah.
And then I kind of settle the anxiety and I come back to myself.
Wow.
And so it's a practice. It really is. And I think on the other side, the work that I do of offering tools and practices for other people to find that in themselves is
Mm.
I'm really not afraid to have the hard conversation. And I'm really not afraid to talk about things that people don't want to talk about.
That's good.
Yeah. So I'm also comfortable to sit with your discomfort.
Hmm.
I'm okay to sit with people in deep suffering
Hmm.
or in some type of practice with me, breath work or movement.
Yeah.
And all of their fears and pain is moving up, out, and through. And I can sit there.
Hmm.
It doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that it's important for people to feel like they can be that,
Absolutely.
you know?
No doubt. It absolutely, I mean, that's such a gift. And what I mean that is that is a gift that you have. And also that is a gift that you are giving. Both
Yeah.
and that obviously that is reflective of the depths of your pain,
Yeah.
depths of where you went and had
Yeah.
to go and rock bottom, but
Mm-hmm.
also how deeply rooted you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to be able to do that. You have to be deeply rooted. You can't fake that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I agree with that. There has to be a deep sense of grounding. And like you said, for anyone to hold that kind of space or to be with someone in that,
Hmm.
they've met that level of pain and darkness in themselves, and they can now be that and show up for you while you feel that too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
giving the person the gift of knowing that they can let it out,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
often we're not just afraid of what's in there. We're afraid of what will happen when it comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I know we need to go. I could
We
keep
can have a part two. I'm all
I
about
know.
it.
But I want to ask you just these are just a couple questions just so I can be oriented to what is happening with you in the year forward.
Yeah.
What are you excited about? What are things that are coming up in your world that you're excited about? What are you craving? What are you nourished by? I know that was three questions all in one. So do your best. Pick one.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I am so I'm excited. I am about to launch actually tomorrow my pre-launch wait list first for my next year yoga retreat to Costa Rica.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah. So it's yoga and
Where? We
embodiment
love
retreat.
Costa Rica. That's like our
Yeah.
go-to place. Where do you go?
No, Sarah.
That's where
To
we go.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, that's my
That's where
favorite
we
part.
go. I think
Yeah.
I've been there three, maybe four
Yeah.
times.
Amazing. It's
You go
just
to the yoga retreat, the one up in
photo
the,
tree. Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
been
That's
there
it.
so many times.
That's it. That's the one.
Dude, that place is
Yeah.
gorgeous.
It's
You
amazing.
guys, this is the
Yeah.
best place to do a
Mhm.
retreat.
It is.
Costa
Yeah.
Rica is magical
It's incredible.
and it's it is oh, I can't believe that.
I
That's so
know, of
crazy.
course. Right? Of course.
Yeah.
So
My
yeah,
husband
that
is a surfer, so that's why
okay.
we
Yep.
go. And it's just
Yeah.
so cute. It's obviously changed a lot. Have you been going there for a while or?
Yeah, this will be my, I have to count back, fifth or sixth retreat to this spot.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've watched it also like develop more and all of that. But it's just
Yep.
the best town and
It is.
yeah,
It's so
so
special.
super
I want
excited for
people to know.
that. It's developing a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about buying there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing
Yeah.
spot. So there's that. And
Okay.
then
When is that? I'm gonna write
that's,
down.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's
do you have the
July.
dates yet or no?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
July 6th through the 11th, 2025.
Okay. All right. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so super excited. And then I'm currently building out. So, as you know, I run my own yoga teacher training certification programs. So, I
Hmm.
have my school, it's a 200-hour program that I run. I'm in my leading my 10th group right now.
Wow.
And I've got some continuing education ones as well, but I'm now building out the 300-hour training, which is just massive.
Yeah.
So I'm working on all of the curriculum development right now, and the vision is that it starts fall 2025.
Okay.
So
That
that will be,
that include like some of the different modalities that we did. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So it's taking the yoga teacher
Hmm.
into an embodied facilitator
Gotcha. All right. So it is
and
not just
adding more
traditional
modalities
yoga.
beyond, yeah, beyond yoga now too. Like
Okay.
we deepen and expand their yoga skills as a teacher, and now we're adding other modalities.
I love that. I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that really sings because if you just say yoga, the
Yes.
end, I'm probably gonna sleep
Yep.
on.
Exactly.
But I guess for anyone who's like me, I don't know, maybe what I experienced at the retreat was far beyond.
Yeah, it's hard because I can't even really call what I teach yoga anymore.
Right. Yeah, so
So,
make up a new word for it. What is it?
yeah, so that's where it's like my brand has kind of come through with Awakening Soul is
Yeah.
Awakening Soul Somatic Flow or Awakening Soul Somatic Journey.
Hmm.
Because within that, then I incorporate yoga, breath work, free
Right.
movement. There's a lot
There's a
intertwined.
lot intertwined.
Yeah, so I'm still unpacking how to fully like present that, I think, because it's so
Okay.
organic. But I have a lot of teachers that want to teach what I teach. So that's what I'm like, they want to learn how to
Okay.
teach this method.
Hmm.
And because it is not just yoga, it just isn't.
And that's the thing. That's why it was so effective for
Yeah.
me. I mean, truly. And I think that's why it was so effective for a lot of people is that it has a way of getting into different parts of your brain, your body, your soul, and your spirit that your usual yoga is not going to do.
Yeah.
Breaking down those barriers, getting you out of your comfort zone, using your voice, using your body, finding a place of expression, like
Yeah.
that's at a different level.
Yeah.
You're hitting a lot of different points that are really key to bringing someone out of their head into the body and into expression. And to me, that last part of it is really powerful.
Thank you for saying that because that does help me see this vision that I've had in how this is its own method.
It is.
It's its
Yeah,
own method that I'm creating.
it is.
So
I'll
now
be
it's
thinking of things
yes.
now. I'll be waking up in the middle of the night going, this would be a cool name. Or a cool descriptor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's exciting because that's what in the 300-hour certification, I
Mhm.
will be teaching other teachers and facilitators how to teach this method and this formula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me know when you need a testimonial too.
Oh, thank you.
I'll do
Yeah,
that too.
that's awesome. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So it was so cool. All right. Well,
This was
I'm gonna
great.
have to let you go. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me, Beth.
So welcome. You are a beautiful and real soul. You are the real deal.
Thank you so much. I feel the same about
I
you.
love you. Mm-hmm.
Love you so much. And I'm so excited to watch this podcast just take off. So this is awesome.
Will be awesome.
Yeah. I'm
Absolutely.
excited for you. So November 1st, it launches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then
I'm gonna
awesome.
try to go in and really just get into it.
Yeah.
And it's such a stretch because I still struggle with getting my voice out, which is so crazy because I spent 20 years talking.
Yeah. No, I
It's
get
so
it.
bizarre
Yeah.
that I spent 20 years talking for someone else.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different process. But that was the thing that really came through to me in that second breathwork session, which we started talking about that. But I've just been all this year just struggling to figure out how how do I turn anything into a business? And I was really open-ended about it. I haven't been stressing about it. I've just been trying a lot of things on, seeing how they fit.
Yeah.
And even there, I was kind of a bit of a mess, just trying to
I
figure
thought that was great. That was
I mean,
great.
you know, I'm
It
just
was
trying to,
perfect. Yeah.
but the thing I received was do not worry about business. You
Yeah.
don't
Just
have to worry
let,
about it. Lean into
yeah.
your artistry, lean into
Yes.
your art. You're an
Yes.
artist, you're creative.
Yes. And just show up from that, and the
Show up
business
from
will
that.
come.
Totally. And
Absolutely.
I am not motivated by funnels.
Yeah.
And
Same. My
I
brain.
just,
Oh, I hate it.
no wonder it's not working for me. I'm not even motivated by money. I want to have money because I want to buy a house, but I don't want to, I
It's not about the money. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all these things like $10,000 to make the money and the thing,
I know.
10K a month. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. 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 Oh
I
my
used
God.
to spend a whole year trying to figure out like how do I get motivated about this stuff and like how do I get my hands around it? And then it's like I think I'm just I'm gonna keep doing the creative things that light me up.
Good. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to hear that. That's it. I have to keep returning back to that too, because I easily get lost in the strategy and it takes me
Mhm.
out of all of what I love.
Right. I
And then
know.
and then I'm not showing up
Yeah.
from alignment.
Correct.
I'm still figuring out
And then the product
that
loses life.
balance. Yeah.
Lose like you know, the thing that makes it the thing. When you get so bogged down in that strategy and you're out of alignment, there's no there's no juice there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.